Yeah, got some too.
Good evening, everyone. I call to order the meeting of the San Francisco Elections Commission for Wednesday, October 15, 2014. The time is 6:08 p.m. And I will note for the record that I'm joined, this is Commissioner Matthews, I'm joined by Commissioners Jordanic, Safon, and you. We are missing, with excused absences, Commissioners Jung and Rowe. Also present tonight, Deputy City Attorney Andrew Shen and Director of Elections John Arms. Item 2, public comment on any issue within the Election Commission general jurisdiction. Seeing no public. Moving on to item 3. Item 3 is going to be moved to a future agenda. So again, if there were a member of the public who showed up specifically to comment on that for some reason, but there is no public. Item 4, approval of minutes from previous meeting. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any commissioner discussion? And again, no public. So a roll call vote. Commissioner Yu?
Yes.
Commissioner Safon?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordanic?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so it is adopted. Thank you. Item 5, commissioner reports, not otherwise covered. Are there any commissioner reports? Hearing none, again, any public who, okay, Commissioner Jordanic.
Yeah, just very briefly, I signed up to be a poll worker for the next election.
Cool. Inspector again?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to it. Very good. Any other commissioner reports? Hearing none, and again, no public who showed up just for that purpose. Item 6, director's report. Good evening, Mr. Arms.
Good evening, thank you. I guess the biggest issue so far for us is the vote by mail ballots that the post office indicated, I think it was 2 Fridays ago, that, no, it was last Monday, that their equipment had harmed some ballots, damaged ballots is all that we got, and contacted the department, asked what they should do, and we said, well, bring it back to us. We had first, that must have been Wednesday, so I thought that they were voted ballots, but they were actually ballots that had not been sent out to voters yet. So Wednesday, we received 5,500 ballot packets, and the exterior envelopes had been messed up. They've been crunched and ripped and torn in some places, but the contents inside the exterior envelopes, for the most part, 99.some% of the time were fine. The ballot cards were all in the envelopes. The cards were still crisp, they were votable, and the return envelopes were still good too. But the post office was still capturing the cards, so they sent us 1,700 on Friday, and they sent us 3,200 yesterday, and I think they sent us 14 total, 14 today, so it's like 9,400 total vote by mail ballot packets that have come back to us from the post office. The remainder of the vote by mail ballot packages have gone out to the voters. We haven't really received a lot of calls from voters. We received 30 total today regarding any issues on vote by mail ballots. People haven't received them or whatever, but not necessarily on torn ballot package. We stayed open on Saturday. We staffed, we didn't plan to, but we staffed the phone bank to take calls on Saturday from voters who had concerns or issues with their vote by mail packets, and we received, I think it was something like 8 calls in 4 hours time. It just wasn't, so there hasn't been a lot of response from the voters. We haven't received emails about this. The ballots are arriving to people's homes. There seems to be a lot of envelopes, exterior envelopes that have been scuffed up, but the interior contents are good. So that doesn't seem to be an issue for this election at this point. It seems like it's going to be a disaster, but at this point I think we're in good shape. The department was able to work with this print vendor once we received these return ballots from the post office to get the information to the vendor in the mail within 24 hours of notice. So what we received on Wednesday was in the mail on Thursday. What we received in the mail on Thursday was in the mail by Friday. What we received yesterday was in the mail by today. So And it's all going first class too, so we should get to the voters rather quickly. And really, only the ballots that we received today, I think, might seem to the voters really coming later than expected, because everything else is going on first class. We are receiving returned voted vote by mail ballots. So far, we received about 6,300, and we projected about a 61% turnout, total turnout for the election, and we try to predict returns, vote by mail ballot returns in the mail on a daily basis, and we projected about 7,100 to come back to us at this point. We've got 6,300, so it's like 11% less than our projections, which is pretty good. And our projections aren't like an inside baseball type approach. For us, it's where we are as far as workflow is concerned. So we don't adjust our totals, and we don't try to calculate what's going on. We try to get a sense of what's coming back according to our work plans and our staffing plans. So, but just so you know, there still is a good return coming back to what we projected before the issue with the vote by mail ballots was known. Precinct ballots, we also had an issue with the polling place cards. We had to get cards 1, 3, and 4 reprinted for the cards that go out to the polls. And the reason for that was the formatting on the cards. There was so much content that there wasn't enough spacing left in the final design for the machines to know, in all orientations that a card could be placed into the machines, that the content was to be read in a certain manner. So once we started the testing and found the issue, the vendor realized that it did not format those cards in a manner for the precinct machines to capture and tabulate the content appropriately in all cases. So rather than having cards being kicked out to voters throughout election day, we've had those cards reprinted. We're in possession of almost all those now. We are about 10 days behind as far as the packaging is concerned for the poll workers, for the distribution of the poll workers, but we'll catch up and get everything done in time for the classes at the end of this month. The vendor paid for the reprint is about 1.2 million cards that had to be reprinted. And let me back up a little bit too. The post office actually stepped forward and offered to reimburse the county for any reissue of ballots that had to occur due to the damage that their equipment caused. And also to back up a little bit, I've asked the post office several times for an explicit statement on the cause of the damage. I haven't received a reply yet to that particular question, so I can't give an answer publicly. So the issue with the precinct cards was not an issue for the vote by mail cards, unfortunately, due to the different types of, due to the resolution actually of the tabulators for the vote by mail ballots. It's more precise. It doesn't need as much space between content and the end and stop and start bars of the ballot cards versus the tabulators that are at the polling places. They need more space. They can't pick up the contents quick once it hits the start or stop bar. Early voting, we've had 267 people as of today voted at the early voting counter, and we projected 567 based on turnout at the early voting counter from the past 3 elections of similar type, the last gubernatorial general elections. But again, that's just a number. It's not really, it doesn't project to election day at all. So I don't want to give any sense that turnout's going to be half of what it was in 2010, because from how we project, it's all workflow again. We're not trying to, we don't ask voters what their plans are. It's a different approach. On the admin side, again, procurement of materials and supplies. We have 300 people that are either working or will be working with the department within the next week and a half for the election. We're doing a lot of staffing, schedule planning going on. We actually plan everyone's time by activity, by day, by the hour as we move through the cycle. With the Giants moving through the playoffs, we potentially might lose parking around our warehouse at Pier 48, Shed B. So the port's already explained to us that across the street parking lot, Lot A, and Shed A, which is adjacent to our warehouse in Shed B, may be used by the Giants for celebrations or staging of celebrations. So in the past, we've used Candlestick as an alternate site for staging our vehicles. We're staging vehicles on our site. But Candlestick moves from city control to a developer's control after October 31st. So we don't really have an alternate site right now for our vehicles. We use about 200 and some vehicles each election, so we're trying to figure that out. We've been in contact with the developer and moving up the administrative ranks there to see if we can get the permission to plan to use Candlestick if necessary. The admin group is organizing the election center. That's the phone bank we have in the cafeteria. We've already begun training. We've had several training sessions for election day as far as taking the calls and dispatching resources. We're organizing the board dispatch for election day out of South Lake. And in the midst of all this, we've also started the 2-year fiscal year budget in response to the mayor's office's meeting of the information. And then we're also running a special election right now. It's a special type of tax election, I guess you could say. I've been running that mostly. It's a small election, 8 parcel holders down there at the Transbay Terminal, and that's been ongoing. Ballot distribution, we're finalizing the schedules with the sheriff's deputies as far as having coverage at the various operations we have, and also the change of the ballots, leaving City Hall, going to the warehouse, and how that affects security. We received I think I've told you 3 times, trying to get these machines that cut open the envelopes so we can pull the ballot cards from the envelopes more quickly. We received 2 of those machines yesterday, actually. We started testing them today for use in about a week's time. The 5-card ballot's been a challenge for the equipment. It might have been a challenge for the post office too, really. We've had 5-card ballots before go through the postal system without these issues, but I don't know what changed on our side, but I'm sure that the thickness of the envelope hasn't been an issue. Campaign Services Group, on Thursday of last week, we held an information session for the election observer panel. So everyone put together a little spiel on what we do, what takes place in the department, in each division. So all the division managers were met with the panel members who showed up. There's 3 panel members, and we told them what we do and our responsibilities, and we answered their questions and gave them their materials, the observer packet and things like that. A letter from me, a memo that can be shown to poll workers saying who they are and why they would be at a polling place and what sorts of processes they might be observing. Campaign Services will also be organizing our open house, which is tomorrow from 2 to 5, which we do before every election. Outreach, so just real quickly, they've scheduled 97 events since October 1st through November 4th. You've probably seen our bus signs out, the ads on TV, Twitter, Facebook. We've been focusing on that, getting a good response. We're getting the ads out in the newspapers, the postcard, the mailer has gone out to all residential addresses in the city. So that's all been running well. Poll worker, they're still looking for some inspectors. They have almost a sufficient number of inspectors to staff the polling sites now. We're looking mostly for standby inspectors, as well as trying to cover any cancellations. You can expect about a 8% cancellation rate at this point of inspectors. You have to replace those that cancel. The labs, the equipment labs will be open. Let's see. So they had the first lab this Tuesday. The next lab will be Sunday, November 2nd, and they're handing out flyers in class, so everyone knows, workers know about the labs. The feds, we've recruited more field election deputies for this election due to the size of the ballot, but we've been able to interview and hire a sufficient number of feds, so I don't see any issues there. The precinct services, right now, we're getting letters for the deliveries of the items, the materials to the polling places. Then also we've gone through election day, how we're going to respond to any closure of polling places on election day. Then also getting ready for post-election day when we need to retrieve all of the items back from the polling places. And then warehouse has been a lot, the testing has gone on. First there was the preventive maintenance at the warehouse, started a month ago, and then that moved right into the logic and action testing, which is ongoing. Even though we had a delay in the cards, the precinct cards, it didn't affect us as far as the length of time required for testing, so we were able to move around the different components of testing and start the edge of the touchscreen and its associated components first rather than second. Now, then we moved into the tabulators second. And then also the warehouse folks are preparing all the items for the poll workers, and they'll start getting ready for the vehicles to come in and start getting the vehicles prepared for use on election day.
Thank you very much. Where are our ballot cards getting printed? Is it still up in Washington?
Yeah, K&H in Everett, Washington.
Everett. Yeah. There was something you said that I just didn't catch. It was earlier on. You were talking about the precinct ballot cards, 1, 3, and 4, and then you commented that you're 10 days behind in, and then I lost the note.
So we originally had already organized the packaging of the cards for each inspector.
Mm-hmm.
So once we had to go to reprint, we had to remove those cards from the inspectors, and then the 10 days it took to get the new cards to arrive is what our delay is in repackaging and preparing the cards for the inspectors.
Thanks, and I think that's all my questions. Commissioners, any questions for the director?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. For starters, regarding the damage to the vote by mail envelopes, did you learn from the post office if there is anything that can be done in the future to like reduce the likelihood of this happening again, or?
No, no, because I haven't even learned what happened.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll be a question, and so no, I have not.
Do you know if they will be answering? Have they said they'll be answering in the future, or you're not sure?
I don't know. I would expect that they would, and I thought they would have by now. This has been a rather serious issue for the post office, I know, and they've had a lot of what they say high-level meetings on this. So I know that at the highest levels of the post office in San Francisco at least are aware of this and consider the issue. And maybe that's why we haven't learned the specific cause of the issue. Maybe they're still discussing that internally, and I don't know. But I would assume that we'll get a reason for this, and then we can take the conversation a bit further and discuss how to prevent this. I will say before every election, we meet, including myself, with post office representatives, and we meet with folks who are in the various divisions that would touch vote by mail ballots at the post office various stages of processing. And I bring up whatever issues we've had in past elections, and I ask specifically, well, if this has happened, well, how's it not going to happen? And we always get responses that, well, it's not going to happen this time. And the post office has gone through a lot of turnover the last 3 years especially. And what that means to us is that the start of every election is always slow. So even though we have these meetings, we cover past issues, and there's a track record of familiarity as far as we're concerned, and I would think as far as a lot of postal employees are concerned, as far as what happens each election, there seems to be a lot of aha moments when elections begin. So we'll have the meeting again if nothing else, even if I don't get a response to my calls and my emails, I'll sit down in the room and ask my question again. But since they've offered to reimburse the county for its costs, and they've asked us to capture all the cards that we've had to, and we scanned the voter ID barcode of the return envelope, create a file and send it to the vendor. So we have all those packets. And the post office has asked us to retain those packets, and they'll come and they'll grab them from our possession and make an accounting, and then we'll discuss reimbursement at that time. So I would imagine somewhere along the way, they're gonna have to have an explanation. I will say, maybe I don't wanna sound negative on the post office. They've been very responsive. They've owned up, they told us about the issue. We didn't have to get calls from voters and then look into ourselves. I've received calls from higher ranking employees or administrative folks from the post office that have never contacted me in the past. So they've been very responsive. They've been trying to resolve the issue. So I don't want to sound like anyway negative, but at the same time, I still haven't received an answer on why it happened.
Okay. And my second question is, I just was curious about you said you're running a smaller election right now. Is that a public election? And how many people are involved in that? Just curious about what that was.
It's called the Mello-Roos election, and Andrew probably wants to talk on this far more than I want to. And it's a special parcel tax election, and it follows its own sections of code. And state elections code doesn't necessarily apply, but it's being applied to certain aspects of this election. And the number of voters, and it's based on acreage. So a certain specific site or sites of acreage in jurisdiction, in this case being San Francisco specifically, the new Transbay Terminal development, the city wants to set a specific tax for the parcel owners on like 5 acres or whatever it is. And so the amount of acreage that an owner controls translates to the voting, the slice of the vote that person gets would be based on the amount of land the person owns on a set of identified acreage. There's 8 owners I'm aware of, and they're all very large landowners. I don't have the calculations yet. I don't know who gets what portion of the vote. So the election's very small, but at the same time, it's like $1.2 billion, something like that, worth of taxes, you want to speak. So I'm basically running that election, and I'm making sure the stuff's getting out, that we're working with the attorneys that are involved in this, making sure that the materials are properly identified and also sent out to the landowners.
So it's an election with like 8 people in it?
Not necessarily people, 8 owners.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Developers.
Yeah, like Caltrans.
Developers and public agencies.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I don't think there's like really a single person that's casting a vote.
No.
per se.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? And still no public. Thank you, Director Arms. Item 7, discussion possible action regarding ongoing updates, improvements to the Commission's webpage. Commissioner Jordanic.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give an update on what has changed with the website since our last meeting. I made the updates that we agreed on at the last meeting. I'll just run through this very quickly. There's now an elections plan page, and the homepage now has the announcements and upcoming meetings listed on it, as opposed to in the interior page. And we now have a YouTube account, official YouTube account for the commission, and I've posted the audio for recent meetings. And we also have a Twitter account now with, we've got 11 followers now. And just a couple comments about, just observational comments. One thing that's kind of cool about YouTube is that if you watch the meeting, it actually generates captions. I think it's using some kind of voice recognition, which is kind of a neat feature. And with the Twitter account, I just wanted to let the commission know that a couple members of the public did contact the account regarding their VBM ballot, and so I referred them to the department to handle their issues. So that's it.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments or questions for Commissioner Jordanic? Thank you very much, Commissioner Jordanic, for handling all that. It's really important work, I think. move into the social media era. And thank you very much. We're still seeing no public. Takes us to item 8, discussion possible action related to notifying voters after elections in which their vote by mail ballot was rejected. Commissioner Jordanic.
Sure. So this is an issue that came up briefly in the last couple of meetings, and so I'll just kind of give a little introduction. In the August commission meeting, I presented a report summarizing some of the information that was provided about the June election, namely the number of vote by mail ballots that go uncounted, and that the percentage was 1.9% of the vote by mail ballots get rejected citywide, and that ranged between 1.3% and 2.4% by neighborhood. And this is an issue that I've noticed has been in the media this year a bit more. And for example, just yesterday, the Sacramento Bee had an editorial about this issue and just the high rate of vote by mail ballots that get rejected across the state. And I think their figures are something like around similar, like 2 or 3%. And there's at least one organization that's been focusing on this issue, the California Voter Foundation, and they wrote a report recently, which President Matthews mentioned at the last meeting, and I distributed the final section of that report, which contains the recommendations, and it's part of the agenda packet. And one of the recommendations, this is recommendation number 8 in the first section of that document, is that counties should notify voters when their vote by mail ballots are not counted and give the reason why, so that voters can avoid making the same mistake again. So I wanted to discuss if this is something that the department could do going forward for the voters in San Francisco. So,
Do you want to address that, Dr. Arndt?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we can, I mean, the numbers are small, I don't want to make it seem like we're against this, but I don't, when I looked at the report though, this Voter Foundation, it talks about essentially modifying people's behaviors so they don't repeat the same mistake. So we looked at the numbers from June 13, November 13 and June 14 on the number of late ballots, so how many of the same people were late for both elections. So in November 13, there were just shy of 1,900 people whose ballots were late, so we didn't count them. Then for June 14, there were 1,100 people. And then for the number of people that had late ballots for both elections, it was 59. So that means it's a small sample set. Not trying to say it's a bad idea. I'm just looking at numbers from 2 elections. So that kind of makes me think, well, it's probably not a consistent problem, lateness, tardiness with the ballot. So then we looked at the no signature, which we do try to contact people if they have a no signature, if they don't sign their ballot and get it. If they have a phone number and an email especially, we'll mail it back to them, try to get them to sign it. Which I think is report indicated that not all counties do that. So we had 225 no signatures in November 13, 247 in June of 14, and then there was one ballot, one envelope that was not signed and sent back to us from both elections. So again, it doesn't seem like that's a consistent problem. One person doesn't have consistently an issue of not signing the vote by mail envelope. So then we looked at the signatures don't match, and that's with the letter that Commissioner Jordanic sent out to you guys. And so if we have a signature miscompare, we already do contact those voters. And we include a registration card saying, hey, we think your signature's changed. And you give folks the benefit of the doubt too. They did sign their envelope. And so for November of 2013, there was 242 that we had signature miscompare. And then June of 14, 244. And then I didn't look at the number. I think I did. I didn't bring it with me. Of how many continued that. Oh, yeah. So 50 folks had continued that issue from November 13 to June 14. But then what was interesting, so we send out these registration cards by default to these these folks who have miscomparing signatures on their envelopes. You know, the 242 that we sent out in November of 2013, 75 actually sent back registration cards to us to really update the information. So it's a 31% return. And then in June of 2014, there was 244 bad signatures, miscompares, and 90 returned their envelopes or their registration cards, and that was 37% of the total responded. So I think with the response rate of signature miscompared, you know, it's there, it's good. And Greg, I said over time it'll correct itself if someone were to be consistently having a bad signature compared to what we have on file. But when I look at these numbers, I don't think notifying people would actually change behaviors. I think behavior changes on its own from election to election, person to person. But it is a notification, say, hey, you know, your ballot didn't count, here's why. Then I think that's probably a more reasonable pursuit to take here. And then to track this, and then you can start to look at these numbers through time and see what they mean. So as far as reports, and I just focused on number 8, this number 8. I don't think how they phrase it is the correct approach, but I think if it's a matter of notification to just inform people, if they don't, and then also to inform them of our website, that all this information on our website, they can track their ballot from the time it's printed, you know, time we open it, time we count it, and all that. Then that's something we can do.
So, well, one thing is I'm not, by including the recommendation, I wasn't necessarily saying that that's exactly what I think we should do, but can you, I wasn't quite understanding what you were proposing.
Oh, personally, from just what I'm seeing, I don't think a voter has the same problem with his or her envelope from election to election. So I don't think sending a letter to a person really by itself changes behavior, because I think the issues are more unique, or they're unique instances of happening. Someone didn't sign because they forgot to sign the envelope, or someone, I don't know, signed someone else's envelope, whatever the issue is. It's not one person is not consistently making the same mistake of mailing it, so it gets back to the department late as an incumbent, because I might send my ballot too late to be counted for one election, but the next election I send it on time. You know, and I don't think a letter would change the behavior. And that's what the Voter Foundation is saying, the letter changes the behavior. And even like I said, the data sets are small, just 2 elections, it's tiny. It's not going to give you a real good sense. But I think that people more or less self-correct themselves when it comes to their voting by mail, so that it counts, so it's a valid count from election to election. So I don't think the letters are necessary to make the numbers better, as far as having less late ballots, or having less signature miscompares, or having less no signatures. But if you want to use the letters as just notification, a good public service to say, hey, your ballot was late, we didn't get counted, so people know, and then give them information on our website. So again, that's the true information source, is our website. And that's one thing this report does indicate, that a lot of folks don't actually go to the website, and I agree with that. So if we can still advertise the website, give them notice, and we can track it through time, you know.
Okay, so are you saying that you would be willing to include in the letter that the ballot wasn't counted, or
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I would probably think would be a good idea. And basically, the letter that you provided me, that I included in the agenda packet, was with regard to just the signature miscompare, and I think that letter is great. I think I would just think if you do that same type of letter for each of the different types of reasons, I think that would be enough.
Does that sound unbeatable?
Yeah.
Yeah, incidentally, I agree with the director that, I mean, look, if we're at 1.9%, call it error rate, in any human endeavor, particularly a task people don't do frequently or only infrequently, that's probably 0. Like, that's the lowest error rate that is probably achievable. And I definitely, you know, I hear what you're saying. I'm very interested with the notion that a particular voter does not persistently make the same mistake election after election after election. If that were the case, like if you saw that there's some subset of voters who keep returning the envelope unsigned, or keep, you know, missigning, or you know, they keep doing something,
Right.
then sure. It strikes me that 1.9% on a human task for which there's no particular training, and the instruction is always a little dry and a little stilted, is probably zero.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they used to say 4% unemployment is zero, because at any time, 4% of the workforce is leaving a job, going to a new job, you know, so there, you know, so that's functionally zero. It strikes me that 1.9% is functionally pretty close to zero. But I do support this letter. Ed, this letter was great, and I support Commissioner Jordanik's idea and your agreement with just making this the form letter that would then get changed for each cause of not counting vote by mail ballot. Commissioner Safan.
I want to thank Commissioner Giordani for bringing this up, because as it occurred to me that I filled out my voter registration card about 50 some odd years ago, and I do get my vote by mail, but usually I surrender it and vote. So my signature isn't the same as it was 50, so I need to go get a new registration card, because I don't want to lose my vote on any election. So I think that's a great reminder for those of us that are a little older.
Matthews?
Please. Commissioner Yu.
So, I was looking at the two letters, one is dated June 12th and one's dated October 14th. The one that October 14th is the more updated version, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I noticed the Chinese version downstairs, down below, doesn't appear to capture the entire English portion. It only goes, it's only the first paragraph.
Yeah, I didn't agree with this.
I'm sorry, I actually didn't copy that page, but I'll give it to you now if you'd
Okay,
like.
because I was,
Yeah, you can borrow my copy.
There's this one, I think.
oops, sorry. Okay, thank you. And then secondly, maybe when we do voter outreach, we can remind folks these common errors when they're submitting their vote by mail or whatever reasons, like a fact sheet or, something, so people will know. I think symbols are great, because when I'm on the bus, I can see the 4 cards that are, on the bus ads, and it's wonderful, the smiley face, and the sad face, don't do this, don't do that. So I think it's really clear, and maybe something similar for these common issues that are coming up. Just be sure your vote counts. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Just like, again, I deliver it because there's so much stuff when it comes to elections.
Yeah.
Somebody notices. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Smiley, because everyone dogs me at the department about Smiley. So I'm gonna take that back about.
I love that.
Yeah,
It's
no.
a happy face. Who doesn't,
Yeah,
who
no.
doesn't respond to a happy face?
Can you talk louder, get it on the record so we know?
It's like getting a star when you do well in school.
Exactly, yeah, that's a good, people respond to it.
And people like the sticker too after they vote. They
We're
keep
gonna
it.
try to do a digital sticker this
Okay.
time around. We're gonna try to do a digital I voted sticker. I can't tell you why, but I've been told it's a little more challenging than it might seem. But we're gonna try to pull that off for this election.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
I love my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys vote?
Yeah, right,
For the
yeah.
Sticker.
Yeah, I had my mom to tell the notices that we send out, and then, of course, now she got a comment about everything that we do. She works in a commission almost, but even my mom talks about the I voted stickers, and she lives outside Detroit, Michigan. So it's universal, and that was really good feedback actually to get from her. So we're trying to go with the digital sticker this time too.
What is a digital sticker?
So, you get those badges online for different
Oh.
It's like
things.
when you're in Foursquare.
Right, yeah, so, that's not my area of expertise at all, I can't talk about that.
Very good. Thank you, and there's still no public for comment. Moving us to item 9, discussion possible action regarding items for future agendas. Hearing none, we are adjourned. 6:47.